I started with Gamemaker about 3 years ago. I first picked it up around a time when I didn't think I was ever going to learn to make video games. I was really desperate. I was getting older, and I was really happy to pick it up and finally make a video game. Following tutorials on YouTube, I was so surprised I could make something that didn't cost a lot of money. I could download it, get started. I didn't have to pay for tutorials. I didn't have to pay for any of this stuff, and I could actually make games. And it was a real turning point in my life as far as being able to follow one of my hobbies I've always wanted to do my whole life. Recently, I've been a little bit disappointed with Opera, the company that purchased Gamemaker Studio, or Yoyo Games, who makes Gamemaker Studio 2. I have a permanent license for that software, and they announced early on that anyone who had a permanent license would basically get free updates for the life of Gamemaker Studio 2. And it's turned out that even if we're getting free updates, we're not getting all of the updates. They have now decided to lock certain updates behind a paywall for subscribers only, and pretty much anyone who has a permanent license is being treated equally to those who have the free license. With the exception of being able to export the game at the end of when you're making it. So that has made me a little bit disenfranchised with Yoyo Games and Gamemaker Studio. And I've been looking for a different engine. And I think at this point, doing a bunch of research, I have decided to go with a new engine. I'm going to talk about some of the ones I considered and which one I think I'm ultimately going to go with. The first engine I looked at, which I've been looking at for a long time, is Unity. And there's a lot of great stuff Unity can do, but my computer isn't really built to handle, I think, a lot of what Unity can do. A lot of the 3D stuff and even just using the Unity interface is pretty taxing on my computer. Everything loads really slowly. I've actually purchased tutorials on Udemy for Unity and followed along and learned a good deal of Unity just because I really wanted to make 3D games at some point. So I have been looking to get away from Gamemaker for a while so I can make some 3D. So having played around with Unity quite a bit now, I actually don't think I'm going to go with Unity just because of the taxing requirements it has for your computer. My computer is not really built to handle that kind of Unity software. Everything runs really slowly and choppy, and sometimes it crashes, and I totally understand that being a viable option for someone with a really nice computer. And maybe at some point I will change to Unity now that I know a fair bit of how to use it. The other part of it is the pricing model. Even though the ease of exporting to all these different consoles and PC and mobile is like super easy, which is amazing, and I understand needing to have a pricing model in place for stuff like that. When you have a full team, full time doing that work. For me, I feel a little bit disappointed after Gamemaker Studio made that change, and I don't want to be stuck in a situation like that again. These companies change their pricing models all the time. Unreal just changed theirs a few months back too, for the better, I think, but I don't want to be in a situation again where I've learned a whole new engine and then find out, oh, now we're charging you for all this other junk that you don't need, and it's not really going to be the engine you originally thought you were paying for. Not that I would pay for Unity, because I probably won't end up making $100,000 or more for a game. It might be $200,000 now, I'm not sure. But either way, I think I'm just going to avoid it for that reason. I didn't really consider a lot of the no-coding engines. One of the main reasons I got into game development was so I could learn to code, so that maybe at some point I could transfer that skill to some kind of employment. So engines like Construct and GDevelop are not really something I was super interested in. So it left me with one option that I think I'm going to go with, and that's Godot, or Godot, or however you want to pronounce it. The fact that it's free is great. That's actually not the main reason I'm going for it, although that is a factor. The fact that it was free and it will always be free is really cool. The main drawback I had to overcome when choosing Godot, there are two of them. The first one was the lack of exporting to consoles. The way I think about it, though, and the way I got over this of not being able to export to Xbox, PlayStation, or Switch without a considerable amount of work and programming knowledge that I don't have, is that if I end up making some super mega successful hit, I could just pay a publisher or some other person to export those games for me, people who have that knowledge. But at that point, I assume I would have the money necessary to export to those consoles if I have some super mega hit game, which is likely not the case. Most of the people who will play my games will likely play them on either mobile or a PC or Mac or whatever it might be. The other main issue that I had to overcome in order to decide I wanted to use Godot was being comfortable with the fact that there's not a ton of tutorials out there. I do like learning stuff and teaching stuff, and so I might end up making tutorials of my own at some point. Probably not on this channel because I like to keep those tutorials separate, but I may choose to do that, and I think that's a really good open market right now for tutorials. There's so many that need to be made for different types of games, and it would be great to be able to take a tutorial from something like Gamemaker Studio, which is fairly similar from what I've been told, and be able to transfer that knowledge in order to make a tutorial for Godot. I did have to overcome the hurdle of not being able to use normal tutorials from YouTube. There's only a handful out there compared to engines like Unity or Gamemaker Studio. Now, I think some of the biggest advantages that I'm really excited for with Godot is, for one, the filing system in Godot, which I'm probably most excited for. Being able to organize things really well in Godot. In Gamemaker Studio, everything is just kind of in your asset library, and it puts a new file in your Gamemaker Studio file. You can't really access things from your computer. Well, you can, but it's just, everything's just kind of complicated and kind of turned around, in my opinion. It makes it really difficult to organize large projects. And with everything being mostly like a global scope for that game, like any object can access any object at any time, that just makes it a little bit challenging. And so I don't think that was great in Gamemaker Studio for bigger projects, which is what I'd like to make, is a bigger project. The other main reason why I'm choosing to change engines instead of just using Gamemaker Studio, because all those are kind of negligible, is going to be the GUI interfacing. So with Gamemaker Studio, you pretty much have to code a game user interface from scratch every single time you make a game. And while you can do that, the game I want to make is going to be very, very heavily focused on the game user interface. It's going to be more like a card game, and I think because of that, it's going to be incredibly difficult and require a lot of work to do that in Gamemaker Studio that I really don't want to do. So I think I'm going to try to make it in Godot. This may end up changing at some point. I don't know 100% what I want to do or how long it's going to take, or if I even vibe well with the GD script, which is the coding language they do based on Python. But from what I've seen so far and the tutorials I've done so far, it seems to work really, really well and be super easy. So I am excited to try it out. Anyway, that's my first thoughts. I've been playing with Godot for a couple days now, and we'll see how this goes in the future.